I'm going to talk about chocolate first because chocolate is one of the most expensive items that you put into candy making. So you need to take care when you're using it. Buy high quality chocolate and then take care of it. I've got some examples here of chocolate that has been heated incorrectly. We heat chocolate so that we can melt it. This sample is an example of chocolate that was heated too high and too fast, and you get white streaks in it. It also becomes very crumbly and is not good for dipping. It kind of has a grainy texture. This is an example of chocolate that when it was melted, water got in it. And typically that happens when people are melting chocolate over a double boiler and the steam gets into the chocolate. One drop of water can make your chocolate turn out like this. We typically melt the chocolate in the microwave, and an easy way to do that, if you have big chunks that you need to do, is put it in a freezer Ziploc bag, get a rolling pin, and then just bash it until it gets really small. We're going to talk about the thermometers that you guys are going to be using. First of all, you need to be very familiar with your thermometer. Look at it and figure out what the markings mean. On our thermometers, the big, thick line typically means every 10 degrees. The tiny little lines are every 2 degrees. So you need to look at your thermometer, become familiar with it before you start cooking. And then we're going to make calibrations. And to calibrate your thermometer basically means that you put it into boiling water and you boil that for 5 solid minutes. There's the clip on the back of the thermometer, so you can just clip it onto the pan. Make sure you have plenty of water. You're going to boil that for 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes, you're going to take a reading. You'll look at the thermometer and you will see what water is boiling at our elevation and with the thermometer that you're using. Elevation will change things and the thermometer itself will change things. If your thermometer is off a little bit, it doesn't matter because we are just taking the reading of water boiling where we are now with this thermometer. Once you get that reading, then you take the difference of that number and 212, because 212 is water boiling at sea level and all candy recipes are written for sea level. So whatever the difference is, then you go to your recipe, you cross out the temperature that's in the recipe and write minus however many degrees the difference was when you calibrated your thermometer. English toffee is really, really easy to make. I have all of the ingredients in the pan. They're starting to boil. It's important that you prepare the pan that you're going to put the English toffee into before you begin cooking. I have a jelly roll pan here. It's filled with crushed ice, and I have a 9x13 cake pan that has been rubbed with butter and put walnuts on top. It's setting on top of the ice. The reason we do this is so that in lab it can chill very quickly. Once I have all of the ingredients in the pan and it starts to boil, it's important that you wash down the sides of the pan so that you don't get any crystallization. And I do that with just a drinking glass of water and a pastry brush, and then I just put the pastry brush down into the boiling molten candy and wash down any crystals that might be on the sides of the pan. You need to remember that anything that goes into the pan, you need to wash the utensils down, the thermometer down, and make sure that all of those crystals go into your molten candy so you don't have a crystallized batch. When you're stirring the English toffee, it will begin to thicken, and you need to stir it gently. If you stir it too quickly, you'll cause the butter to separate out. And what you're looking for is at the bottom of the pan, you want caramelization to occur. Notice that I'm using the candy paddle. Important that I have a flat bottom tool to stir the English toffee with so that I can look down in there and see when it's starting to caramelize. And I'll just keep gradually stirring this. It will begin to thicken, and when it becomes the color of a brown paper bag is when it's finished. And the point now is just to keep stirring and pulling that candy so that you're looking down in the bottom for browned places. Once you find a browned place, then just stir that up through the candy. What I'm looking for now is that uniform brown color, and I'm also looking for smoke. I'm going to hurry and pour this into the pan on the nuts. Use your candy paddle as a holder so that the pan isn't so heavy. And don't scrape the bottom of the pan, just scrape the side. And then you're going to go ahead and put the nuts on there and the chocolate. So I'm going to put the chocolate on first so that it can melt. The heat of the toffee will allow the chocolate to melt. And as soon as that's melted, then we'll put the nuts on top of that. Make sure you've broken it into enough pieces for all the class members to get a sample. We'll go ahead and sprinkle the nuts on top of that, and that is ready to refrigerate. To toast the coconut, you just put the coconut into a dry skillet, and then you look for browning. As soon as it starts to brown, you move it around with your pancake turner, and when it's brown, dump it onto a plate immediately so it doesn't continue to brown. That is just about the right amount of browning that you want on the coconut, so go ahead and take that out and put it onto a plate so that we can put that onto the marshmallows. When you have all of the ingredients in the pan for the marshmallows, make sure that you check the temperature at eye level. You will have calibrated your thermometer, and a good little trick is to use a grease pencil to mark on the thermometer where you're going to cook the temperature to, so that you don't have to keep counting all the little lines. I also like to write it on the top of the thermometer as a reminder what temperature I'm cooking it to, and then I have two places. I can look up here, and I can also look on the thermometer where I've marked with a grease pencil to get it to the right temperature. Keep in mind that if you don't cook your candy to the exact temperature, even 1 or 2 degrees, it probably won't work out. So be very careful with your temperature. When you're done, put all of the things that have the syrup on immediately into hot water so your cleanup will be easier. I'm going to pour this slowly into the KitchenAid mixer, and then I will just start beating it, and it will turn into marshmallows. Notice that you can see the tracks of the mixer. The wire whisk is making tracks. When it looks like soft serve ice cream, it's ready to pour into the pan. I like to just pound the wire whisk to get all of that out, and then just go ahead and scoop it into your prepared pan. And then you'll top it with the toasted coconut and the chopped nuts. Go ahead and put the toasted coconut on the marshmallow and the chopped nuts. And I kind of like to pat those down in with the back of a spoon so that they don't fall off later. And then we'll set those aside, and they are ready to chill. When the marshmallows are set, you'll be able to take a sharp knife and go around the outside edge to release the marshmallows from the pan. And then you should just be able to lift up that whole marshmallow slab and put it onto your prepared towel that has the powdered sugar on it, and you'll go ahead and cut it into squares, and each time you cut, roll the edges in the powdered sugar, and you can set it on your serving plate. Ready to eat. When you get all of the ingredients in the pan for the lemon chews, make sure that you've calibrated your thermometer and figured out the temperature. I've marked on the thermometer with my grease pencil, and I've also put my cook temperature here at the top so that I remember what temperature I'm cooking to, and I'll make sure and check it on eye level. We're now at temperature, so I'm going to take the utensils out, and I will put them in some hot water so that they'll be easy to clean. And I'm going to pour this on the marble slab in a very thin rope. Remember to mix in your coloring at the very end. Just draw that toothpick through the molten candy and put your extracts in. Now you can go ahead and pour it onto the marble slab. This is so that it will form a rope. Marble slabs are typically cold, and they will draw the heat out of your candy really quickly. Once we get this poured on, then we will use a buttered pancake turner to keep it into a rope, and then we'll take that rope over to the plastic wrap that we have on the counter, and we will wrap it into individual servings. Just use your pancake turner to lift that up so that it stays in a rope. We're now going to wrap the lemon chews with a mixer as a tool. You will take plastic wrap and you'll run it the entire length of the cabinet. Make sure that you wipe the cabinet with a clean cloth first so that it's wet and so that the plastic wrap will stick to it. Then you line up the lemon chews spaced about 8 inches apart. Fold one side of the plastic up over the lemon chews on one side, then the other side of plastic on the other side. Tie it to the mixer, turn it on, and it will wrap your lemon chews. This is my very own idea. Okay, once you get it tied onto the mixer, just turn it on and let her rip. You'll have wrapped lemon chews. Ta-da. For the sugared nuts, easy recipe. You've mixed the nuts together, you dump them in the pan with the stirring handle, you dump the cinnamon on, and you dump the salt on, dump the sugar on, and then you're going to cook this on medium-high heat, stirring constantly. Then I'm going to add the water until you have a very, very thick syrup. I'm going to stir it just to show you how the handle works. Till you have a very, very thick syrup, and when you look down in the nuts, you will not see any liquid. It will all be the syrup that's coating the nuts. That's how you know when it's done. When you've cooked the nuts so that the syrup clings to all of the nuts and there's no syrup in the bottom, you're going to take the 2 tablespoons of water and gently sprinkle it in from the far side so you don't burn your arm, all the way toward the close side of the pan. Give it just a quick stir, and then you're going to dump it immediately onto your greased cookie sheets. And then you'll spread the nuts out using some forks that have been greased and a pancake turner, and that's your sugared nuts.